Hey, welcome! Today we're diving into a really cool method for designing learning experiences called the Authentic Assessment Project. And let me tell you, it completely flips the script, moving away from just what we can memorize and focusing on what we can actually do. So let's just jump right in with a big question. How do you actually measure something like creativity or leadership? You can't just give a multiple-choice test for that, right? It's a huge challenge, and it goes way beyond the classroom. And that really gets to the heart of the problem. Traditional tests, they're pretty good at checking if you've memorized facts, but they often fall completely flat when it comes to measuring if you can apply that knowledge to solve a real, messy problem. They test what you know, not what you're capable of.
And that's exactly where authentic assessment comes in. Now, this definition is super important. I want you to notice it's got two really distinct parts. There's a meaningful, real-world task the learner has to do, and then there's a specific tool that's built to measure how they did. You absolutely need both pieces for this to work.
From how do you even begin to build one of these things? Well, the process starts in a place that might actually surprise you. You don't start with the fun project or the lesson plan. Nope, you start with the end goal. That's right. Before you even think about what the learners are going to be doing, you have to decide what skills you want them to walk away with. And we're talking about the big stuff here, those high-level skills that are so crucial for, well, modern life and work. And these skills usually get broken down into three main categories. First, you've got your thinking skills, things like problem solving and creativity. Then you have action skills, which cover collaboration and communication. And finally, living skills, which include stuff like leadership and global understanding. The idea is to pick specific skills from these buckets that you really want to target. Okay, so you've picked your target skills. What's next? Well, this is where the whole process gets really clever and honestly, a little bit backwards from what you'd probably expect. This is just so counterintuitive. I love it. The project guide makes it super clear. You pick your target skills in Module 1, but you don't actually design the task, the thing the students are going to do, until Module 5. So what on earth is happening in between all that? You build the grading tool first. This is the big aha moment of backwards design. Think about it. Instead of making up a project and then trying to figure out how to grade it, you build the perfect measuring stick, the rubric, first. This basically forces the task you create later on to be perfectly aligned with the skills you wanted to measure from the very beginning. It's genius. And this super important grading tool has a name, the summative rubric. But I want you to think of it less like a grading sheet and more like the actual blueprint for success. It lays out, crystal clear, for everyone involved, exactly what good looks like for each of those target skills. Now, having a detailed blueprint is great, but you don't just hand it to someone and expect them to build a perfect skyscraper on their first try, right? You gotta check in. You gotta provide feedback all along the way. And this is a perfect way to think about the two types of assessment going on. That summative assessment, the final rubric, that's like the championship game. It's the final score. But formative assessments, those are the practices, the rehearsals, the scrimmages. Their whole point is just to give feedback so you can get better, not to give you a final grade. And that feedback, it's not just coming from the top down, it comes from everywhere. The model actually makes you build tools for learners to assess themselves, for their peers to give them feedback, and of course for the instructor to weigh in. It creates this awesome 360-degree loop, so the learner gets a really complete picture of where they are and how to improve. Okay, so this whole system, it really hinges on having a good rubric. But how do you actually know if the thing is any good? I mean, how can you be sure it's reliable and not just something you made up? You use data. The process makes you test your rubric with a panel of experts in the field. They all independently rate every single part of it, saying whether it's essential, useful, or not necessary for measuring that skill. Then you plug all those ratings into a formula, and it spits out what's called a content validity ratio. A score above 0 means it's pretty good, but a high score, like 0.9, well, that means your rubric is absolutely rock solid. All right, so let's recap. We have our target skills. We have a statistically validated blueprint for success, and we have a whole system for practice and feedback. Only now, after all that groundwork has been laid, is it finally time for the main event. It is finally time to design and reveal the authentic task. You see, every single step we just talked about was intentionally designed to lead right to this moment. It ensures that whatever the task ends up being, learners are perfectly set up to succeed and really show off those skills we targeted from day one. And these aren't just any old assignments. They have to meet some pretty specific criteria. We're talking about substantial, long-term projects that involve solving a real problem or creating an actual product. The key is that they have to push learners to work together, use technology, and connect with the world outside the classroom walls.
So you go through all these steps, defining skills, building rubrics, designing all those practice checks, and finally, creating the task. What do you actually have at the end of it all?
You have a complete portfolio. And it's not just a random collection of assignments. It's a single, cohesive, and validated master plan that any educator could literally pick up and use in their classroom tomorrow. It's the whole shebang ready to go.
And the point of that final portfolio isn't just to staple everything together. The goal is to reflect and improve on all the work you've done. This makes sure that the final product is a polished, revised, and implementation-ready plan that's been tested and tweaked every step of the way.
So when you step back and look at the whole system, you realize it's so much more than just a new type of test. It's like a reverse-engineered roadmap. You start with the destination, mastering these real-world skills, and then you build a very precise, validated path to get learners there.
And that kind of leaves us with the final thought, doesn't it? This model is obviously powerful for school, but just imagine applying it somewhere else, to your own job, to professional development, even to learning an instrument or a new language. If you started with the end in mind and built your measurement tool first, how could that totally change the way you learn? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.